Tosin is a product lead with 15 years of experience in the industry. She's a customer-focused and outcome-driven person. She has a proven track record of leading cross-functional teams, developing and launching innovative and successful products, and working closely with stakeholders at all levels while fostering kindness, which is wonderful to see, and a human-centered culture in the workplace. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here with you today. So wherever you are in the world, I hope you're excited as I am to dive into the topic of building resilience as a vital competency in the world of product management. It is a huge topic and we have limited time, so let's get into it. In terms of the agenda for today, first I will be touching on what is resilience. Then I would cover turning setbacks into stepping stones, which is effectively some of my lived experiences. And third, we will touch on some strategies for building resilience. So first, let's set the scene with a bit of a background here. Let us imagine a world where challenges abound, whether those challenges are commercial based, maybe it's a knowledge or market related, or maybe because you've just signed up for this new role. Your desire, of course, is to make an impact, but you've just been told that you have got 4 months to deliver 2 new credit cards and relaunch a third one. Now, so you're already working against deadlines, and I know how PMs love deadlines. And by the way, this is the first time you are working in the credit card industry. Or maybe scenario 2, you've got your experience in your bag, but you now have the reputation as the one with the ability to successfully take products through product governance. Again, if you are from the financial services industry, you would know how important that is as well. So your reputation's gone ahead of you and you've now been invited to work on this new product launch for the largest retailer online. Hoorah, that's what we all want. The only thing is, as if that wasn't enough pressure, you're now being told within weeks that actually you're not just responsible for the governance work stream, you are now also responsible for the launch of those 2 new cards into the entire UK market. But you've launched products before, right? You've launched credit cards before. Yes, yes, yes. However, you can already see the difficulties and the challenges ahead of you. Hello to the world of shared P&L, to the world of shared customer journeys. So 2 sides owned by 2 different companies, and the journey needs to be seamless for the customer. No one needs to remind you that technology is continuously advancing. And in this case, only the latest and the best would suit this retailer. So you're learning on the job. Hello iframes, hello widgets. And by the way, those have different commercial implications, at least in the UK. You're also being introduced to new APIs on the job. Exciting time. But you're also the product, the comms, and the UX owner. You cannot mess up. Your company is relying on you. You can see the road ahead, but the path to success is riddled with obstacles. Those were my experiences, and this is our world as product managers. So let me say this loud and clear. In this world, resilience becomes our superpower. As Steve Jobs once said, he said, I am convinced that about half of what separates the successful entrepreneurs from the non-successful ones is pure perseverance. So today, friends, I want to invite you to join me on a journey of discovering the immense value of resilience in product management. Together, we will explore some personal stories, practical strategies, and actionable insights. And the idea and my hope is that this will empower you to embrace resilience and achieve supercharged success in our demanding roles. So let's get into it. What is resilience? Years ago, I was at a leadership conference. I asked the speaker what his thoughts were about the importance of resilience in leadership. He scoffed. He told me that it was a fad, it was a buzzword. Huh. And for many people, you probably had this experience as well. Years before COVID, it was face-to-face conferences. You build up your courage, you go up to the speaker, you want to network, you want to make conversation, and you hope to learn from the conversation. But then sometimes that happens. Now, I knew that he wasn't right because I had read books from Oprah to Brené Brown and Sheryl Sandberg to know better. But I was missing a definition that I really could relate to, and that would make a difference. However, a couple of years ago, I was listening to Sneha Narahali, who is the head of product at Sephora. She shared a definition of resilience by Dr. Unger, and it was a eureka moment for me. So here we go. What is resilience? Dr. Michael Unger describes it as, in the context of exposure to significant adversity. Resilience is both the capacity of individuals to navigate their way to the psychological, social, cultural, and physical resources that sustain their well-being and their capacity individually and collectively to negotiate for these resources to be provided in culturally meaningful ways. A bit of a mouthful, but I'll take you through line by line. So I love this definition because, you see, in my head, resilience is a picture of an elastic band. Because of course, resilience and elasticity both involve the ability to recover or bounce back from a destructive event, right? And that's what we try to do daily in our work when we face challenges. They both require adaptation and flexibility in response to a stressor. And ultimately, the goal in both is to restore equilibrium and stability. But this quote reminds us of a clear difference, that in resilience, as humans, we have the cultural, physical, psychological, social resources in our arsenal to negotiate our responses to failure and adversity. And of course, we must always call on those. So, returning to resilience in the context of product management, I identified 3 areas where we face adversity and setbacks. First is in the management of products. Some of that we've heard throughout this conference, so whether that's the strategy, how do you define a strategy? Like as I explained earlier, when I stepped into my new job, for example, what am I supposed to do? What do you do when your product is software? What do you do when your product is a SaaS product? Or maybe it might be a platform as a service, or maybe it might be a financial services product. What are the differences? How do you manage relationships? It then becomes management of orders, the stakeholder alignment, which is a big deal. Then the third is around the management of self. How do you respond on a day-to-day basis to different personalities in the office? How much are you learning? What is your attitude to what you don't know? Those are usually and typically the areas as product managers where we face challenges. However, in every of this area, resilience is not about avoiding failure, but about bouncing back, learning from setbacks, and forging ahead with renewed determination. In my journey, I have discovered that failures, however difficult, can be transformative learning opportunities. Each failure has forced me to reckon with my emotions, however difficult, engage in introspection, and embrace vulnerability. These failures have become crucial milestones for me in my personal growth and development. So let's get some real life examples of failures that I have encountered through my career and how they were moments for learning and improvement. One thing I do want to call out, though, is that the repeated use of the word failure today is intentional. And this is simply to get a message across in my day-to-day, and I hope in yours as well, that you see this simply as learning steps. So please remember, as we progress today, that failures is an inevitable step on our path to success. It is, however, how we respond to failure that determines our growth. So let's go for it. Exhibit A, really prepare for success. So remember at the beginning in my introduction, I talked about this new products that I was working on. Well, one of the products was highly successful with customers. In fact, so successful that it ended up attracting the target audience. So if the goal was to attract X, we were able to do X times 3 in a short period of time. Now, for those who are familiar with financial services, you would know that know your customer, as important as it is in products, where it comes into financial services, it's actually a key tenet of financial product design. So it is something that the regulators will be on your back for. Unfortunately, in this instance, not getting that right impacted the sustainability of the product. So, did we do the right thing? Yes, we did follow the right steps. The financial modeling was done, the analysis was done, the planning was done. All of this to ensure that we're able to meet a target, a KPI set around volume, set around affordability, customer journey, and the cons as well, of, to mention a few things. However, there was a core assumption and a fixed one on simply focusing on our audience rather than the whole of the market who would see this advert and the promotion of the product. The lesson learned here was, regardless of how silly it might seem, explore all edge cases and size up every single risk before dismissing them. Having learned from this experience, it did capture my mind to make sure that this didn't happen again. But actually, it meant that in future, I was more risk averse, making sure I was conscious of any possible edge cases. And now, as I've gone up, as a leader, I am more asking questions of people. Have we thought about this? What about that? To avoid similar errors in future. But at the time, I think I did so well that I became the go-to person for product governance, which obviously ended up opening up future opportunities for me, as in the scenario 2 with the top online retailer. Exhibit B. You are not your job. So the second example is more around the management of self. Despite several accolades of product launches, and that was about 8 or 9 in a period of 6 years, working on and with some of the best minds, something was amiss, and there was a misalignment of values and goals. Over several years, I would struggle with poor mental health, which also had a physical impact as well. One was that I had a couple of surgeries. I was now beginning to have panic attacks, on my way into work, before I got into the building, or maybe just on the commuter train, or even before meetings. On the funny side, backaches meant I had to give up my heels. Not very tall, so I did love my heels, and those had to give away to flats. And also I couldn't carry my own backpack, and I had to carry wheelie, sort of like the air hostess and air host wheelie carriers. On reflection, I realized that my self-worth had become so tied up with my work, and I had not fully processed the highs and the lows of my job, nor had I realigned my growing family and responsibilities outside of work. It did take several years to truly heal. The lesson I learned, and one I am still learning, is the value of self, but also that sometimes there will be no one to look up to around you. And what does that look like? That could mean that you are the only type of you in a room around the table, the only female, the only male, the only Black person or person of a certain race. Or it might just be a disability as well, and you might be the only one. Now, that's okay, because this is simply because you are the one writing the blueprint. So, and also remember, you are enough. In both examples, what you have heard is the non-emotional and factual summary. What you and I both know is that behind the stories are the mental and emotional elation associated with product launches. The anxious wait to see as the numbers start trickling in on a day-to-day basis, week and month, and then as you begin to be able to see a sizable cohort, do the math, and you have the realization of the commercial impact of the cohort and the customers and the clients that you brought on. But this is also followed by several number of meetings, and that also means preparing loads of slides late into the night to have the conversation around what next. The fear, the bracing up for difficult conversations, the emotional highs and lows. And also, on the positive side, the supportive coming together of teams to help answer the question of what next. The most important lesson, and one that I would implore as takeaway from both of these examples, and pretty much really, my working, my career experience, is where there is growth, you begin to fear this moment of failure less and less. In fact, when we choose to accept vulnerability, when we choose to accept that failure is inevitable and only a stepping stone to learning and to success, then we allow ourselves to be vulnerable. In my experience, resilience is actually birth where vulnerability meets courage. And one thing I do know is that when this happens, success is bound to follow. Because why? You have now been able to define what success looks like for you. The thorough, the goal-focused, the more confident, the empathetic, active listener version of me today, who now believes that she is able to be a leader and who is a leader, is a result of that journey. So reminding you of Brené Brown's words, she says, vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. Now, let's discuss some strategies and actionable insights. A couple of things to call out. One is that resilience is actually a journey. As cliche as that might sound, it's not a destination. There are not many people who have not had a wobbly time. And you never get anywhere where you think, oh, that's it, I'm done, I'm good. I've got the muscle built now, nothing to worry about. But also the second thing is that as product managers, we always sort of look at the root cause, right? So when you think of the strategies that I am going to talk about, first of all, make sure you ask yourself, where is the issue? Where do I need to apply the solution? And therefore, you make sure that you're not simply just, sort of targeting everything. You can have a focused approach to where you're facing issues or setbacks as a PM. So we do it once, you rinse and you repeat and you continue. We're ready. First one, pause, breathe and relax. The second is to remember that it does take a village. The third is to know and grow yourself. Fourth is the clarity and importance of knowing your own goals. And number 5 is continuous learning. Let's now take each one. The first one is pause, breathe, and relax. So we know this, but I also know we have deadlines. But if you begin to feel overwhelmed, in fact, I would implore you, don't allow yourself to get to that point, that you do remember to always pause and take a break. Consider the moments that you've come up with the best ideas. It's usually doing something unrelated, whether that's walking your dog, exercising, or even cooking. Make sure to interject your day or stressful moments with something that you enjoy for a few minutes or longer. And whether that's listening to a podcast, watching a movie, music, exercise, do what it is that your body and your mind needs to do. By the way, one of my favorite things to do is to watch Indian movies. And inspired by my daughter, who decided to learn 3 languages, she's only 9, on Duolingo, she suggested that I might as well learn Hindi as well, so that I didn't have to use the subtitles. I am a long way away from taking off subtitles from Indian movies. However, thanks to a happy weekend, I did lose my 66-day streak. And so that was a little gutting, to say the least. But however, I'm glad I did get to 66 days and I've started again. So for any Hindi speakers out there, forgive my accent. However, aap ka din shubh ho. I hope I did well. Secondly, it takes a village. As the African proverb goes, it takes a village to raise a child. Similarly, in our journey as product managers, it takes a village to build resilience. If there is one key lesson that I have learned and would happily and highly recommend, is the power of community, collaboration, mentorship, and therapy. All of this help in developing our resilience and supercharging our product teams. Firstly, we thrive when we surround ourselves with like-minded individuals who share our passions, challenges, and aspirations, building a strong community within our organizations. And I would even encourage you outside of your organization, allows us to lean on each other for support and encouragement, and also for knowledge sharing. What we build is a sense of friendship, right, with people that we work with and who share the same skill sets as us. We create a network of resilience that helps us to weather storms and celebrate successes together. There are some brilliant product communities online: Twitter, LinkedIn, and of course, product makers on Slack as well. So do join and let's keep the conversation going. One other thing as well to mention is mentorship. It does play a crucial role in developing resilience, right? I have mentors who provide perspective, share their wisdom, and offer constructive feedback. And they have helped me to navigate through difficult situations. They also help to and inspire me to push my boundaries. And they are a safe space for reflection and for growth. You might also want to consider having a coach. It's often a paid service to help you hit specific goals. But if you are lucky enough, your mentor could be the coach that you need. Third is know and grow you. Years ago, I was working with an occupational therapist. One exercise I had to go through was the breakdown of my own values and the values of where I was working. Not the values that the company put on the website or PR version. There was not one single match. And in that aha moment, we realized why I was struggling at work. For many of us, we are battling and dealing with the reality of our own vision and values of lives at odds with where we spend a considerable amount of time and energy, actually. So in my experience, the more aligned that these are, the less stressed you are. There is an exercise, DISC profile, and DISC all stand for, I believe, dominance, influence, and then I think the C was conscientiousness. I probably got that wrong, pardon me. But the idea here is an understanding of your personality. And what they try to understand is actually what's your DISC profile at home and what's your DISC profile outside at work as well. So at work and outside of work. The idea is they should be close to each other, and where that's actually quite far away, it's usually sort of numbers out of 100, and where it's sort of you might be dominance at work could be 80 something, and then at home you're actually 20 or 30, so very laid back. You're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. So it's an exercise worth looking into. So do remember, resilience flourishes when our goals are aligned with our core values. Knowing our values provides a solid foundation that anchors us in times of uncertainty. And when our goals are in harmony, I can hear in my head music when I say the word harmony. And by the way, neurodivergent, so pictures, music, sound associated with words is regular. When your goals are in harmony with your values, you feel a sense of purpose, fulfillment, and intrinsic motivation. This alignment fuels your resilience, enabling you to stay committed and persevere through obstacles, even when faced with adversity. So, dear friends, in the words of Polonius Hamlet, to thine own self be true. A few questions to take away. Do you know what motivates you? Do you know your learning style? Do you know your ambitions? Those are key questions to ask yourself and an exercise to go through. Fourth, goals, the clarity of your goals. The ones I refer to here aren't a tick box exercise that we do half a year or at the end of the year. By knowing your goals, you gain a sense of direction and purpose. When I struggled, sometimes when I've struggled in my career, it was because I was working really hard, but I wasn't sure if I was really adding value. So I have learned that clearly defining objectives and aligning them with my team's vision allows me to prioritize my task and helps me to make informed decisions and adapt to changing circumstances. Clarity empowers us to overcome obstacles because we're constantly reminded of the bigger picture and the impact that our work can have. And finally, continuous learning and growth. Resilience is a lifelong journey of continuous learning and growth. By staying curious, embracing a growth mindset, and seeking opportunities of self-improvement, you enhance your resilience muscle. So, what do you need to do? Do not stop acquiring new knowledge and skills. Ask and leverage feedback as an opportunity to invest in your personal and professional development. This is how we cultivate resilience. In conclusion, I want to leave you with this thought. Resilience is not just about surviving, it is about thriving, transforming failures into fuel for growth and success. And as product managers, we have the unique opportunity to supercharge our success by embracing resilience. Today, we have explored the power of resilience, how it can propel us to extraordinary results. We've discussed the importance of knowing our goals and knowing ourselves, of building a supportive community and embracing continuous learning. These strategies will guide us as we navigate the challenges and uncertainties of our work. But let's remember, we are not alone. So I do hope that you do leave here today feeling inspired and ready to embrace resilience in your quest for supercharged success in product management. Thank you once again.